I am actually hoping that you all watched my first video about this where I unboxed the Duet 7i and then kind of played around with it. But here's where we're at with the whole experience. This is a Microsoft Surface competitor. It's not a Surface laptop competitor, it's a two-in-one. This is the main computer, this is the keyboard. And there's so much to like about this. In fact, there's a lot, in my opinion, that you can prefer about this device over the Surface alternative. Now, the Surface is definitely the most pervasive of this type of computer, this two-in-one hybrid with a detachable keyboard where it serves as a tablet or a pseudo laptop when you need it. I say pseudo because it's a-traditional and it uses this hinge, which is not very comfortable on your lap. But while Lenovo they've improved, they've done some things that are different than Microsoft, and I really like those things. One of the key reasons why the Surface is the way to go, especially in the United States, is that it's just more available. It's more readily updated. Microsoft has years of these, generations of these devices to learn from, and they continue to improve upon. And they also, I don't know, just kind of nail it a little bit differently. Whereas with Lenovo, it's almost like they're taking a hammer to some of the problems with the Surface line. So in this video, we're going to walk through what I like and dislike, as well as whether or not you should buy it or try to buy it, because you can technically obtain it. It's just, in the States, it's just not directly from Lenovo. So you can go to CDW, Office Depot, but actually finding one is going to be a challenge. Okay, so the number one reason why I would buy this is value. If you're looking for something that is going to give you a pen, a keyboard, and the device itself in one transaction, and that transaction is going to be reasonably priced, again, if you can get it, it's right here over the Surface line. The Surface line, there are many SKUs, more SKUs than you can find in the Duet, and in those SKUs, you still have to run out and buy a pen and buy a keyboard, which is kind of weird because the device is mostly useless, let's be real, if you don't have a keyboard. And one of the reasons why you buy a touchscreen device is for pen inputs, so that you can do take some notes or do some drawing and coloring. Now the pen that is included is pretty awesome. It works great, it feels good. The way that it's ribbed is very comfortable, giving you many different places to rest your fingers. And compared to an Apple Pencil, I prefer the height of this. And I also prefer the hardware buttons to having no buttons on the Apple Pencil, and the fact that the whole thing is ribbed versus on the Apple Pencil, only one side is ribbed. However, just like with, actually, does Surface have a magnet? Anyway, I can't remember if the Surface has a magnet or not for the pen, but there is no magnet, right? So if you want to holster this pen, you got to find another way. There's no way to do it on the device. Okay, so that's one of the reasons. Now, a reason also to get this is the keyboard. It's great. It feels really good. I love the typing experience on this over the Surface. So the Surface chiclets are also pretty good. These just feel better. They feel like a normal computer keyboard, and I feel like they might be a little bit bigger too. The trackpad is solid. It's probably not, you may not love it as much as a Surface trackpad, but I think, it's been a while since I've put my hands on a Surface tablet keyboard. I think this is totally fine. Now, one of the things I love though is the back. This sort of textured nylon is really comfortable, and it gives the whole look of this machine a very classy distinction, especially when it's sitting on a desk. It looks really good, and overall it does keep the same traditional design of the Surface, the same overall layout, but it does add ports. So if you're looking for ports, again, you would choose the Duet over the Surface. So this has a USB-C port on the one side next to the hardware buttons, and on the other side you get two more, so you can charge this from either direction, which is super awesome. And it uses a traditional USB-C plug, gosh, that's traditional now, versus what Microsoft has, which is a little bit like MagSafe, right? It's this power connector that magnetically sticks onto the side, so if somebody walks by, or your dog or something, and jiggles the cable, it'll just pop out without knocking your Surface to the ground. That's pretty freaking awesome. But here you have just a traditional plug, okay? So keep that in mind. You do get the headphone jack and a SIM tray. So also with this thing, yes, that's what it was. Okay, so this is really cool. If you detach the keyboard for your comfort, right? Like you want a little bit more space away from your tablet, you can actually turn on Bluetooth here and then control your computer as you normally would from the keyboard without having it physically connected. That is amazing, and I really hope that Microsoft adopts this. It's a super good value. Even Microsoft's ARM-based super fancy Surface Pro doesn't do that. So yeah, way to go. Or is it called the X? I can't remember what it's even called. But one huge advantage that the Surface definitely has over this Duet is that you can get the new Surface with the 11th gen Intel processors. Now, if you're wondering why such a dramatic difference between 11th gen and 10th gen, it really comes down to this. I'm going to hit the power button in 3, 2, 1. Okay, I just pressed the power button. This thing, I did not shut it down. I just closed the lid. A day ago or so. So in that 8 to 10 seconds, the PC is finally ready for me. I can swipe to log in, and now I'm in. Okay, so now I'm using it perfectly fine. Everything's all good. With the 11th gen Intel processors, you get instant on. And that's pretty freaking huge. Now, the speed, performance, day-to-day tasks, honestly, you're not going to tell a difference in my opinion. If what you're using this for is for work or for school, and you're not compiling code or VPNing into different boxes and I don't know that stuff. But if you're just using this for the Microsoft ecosystem and for browsing the web, whether it's the 10th gen or 11th gen, you're gonna be super happy. But if you want that feel of a modern machine where you can just instantly turn it on, you're not gonna find that here unless you change your sleep settings and then drain your battery life. Speaking of battery life, subpar. I got about 6.5 hours on my battery drain test, so I'll probably run it a couple more times just to see what's up with that, because that does seem lower than it should be. But hey, that doesn't mean you can't get 7 or 8 hours if you really stress yourself by lowering the brightness and maybe don't use the speakers and I don't know, maybe keep the Bluetooth off on the keyboard, that kind of thing. So anyhow, I do think it's a good device, but what you come down to ultimately is availability and usefulness. Do you really need a touchscreen device? If you do, there's the new iPad Pros that were just announced with a really strong iPad OS operating system. And then Android has some pretty strong devices in the Galaxy Tab S7 and S6 line. Those are good devices. So do you want to get a Windows-based one just to have a commonality amongst all of your devices? Maybe you're a big Windows user. Well, just don't forget, your phone is not Windows-based. It's probably Android or it's iOS. So you're going to be relying on Microsoft's, in that case, third-party software in order to synchronize your files and try to synchronize your experience. So that's a complicated way of saying, do you really need Windows to be your tablet? I don't know. And if you need a computer, you might be better off, instead of a detachable 2-in-1 with just a traditional laptop, maybe an Ultrabook that's thin and light, just as thin and just as light as this at under 3 pounds. That might be perfectly fine for you. Or of course, a MacBook Air or something like that. So anyhow, I hope you found this helpful. I gotta send this back to Lenovo, so big thanks to them for sending it my way. And if you don't mind, it'd be really helpful if you could check out my Patreon. The link is in the description. I hate talking about that stuff. I've made like 100 videos. That's the first time I've pimped it. But anyhow, it would be helpful if you could take a look at it and consider being a patron. Anyhow, that's a wrap. So we'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.